All right, hello. We return to Emily's Adventures in Japan. It is currently 5:41 a.m. in this photo. What were we doing up so early, about a week into our Japan adventure? Well, it's probably spoiled by the title of this video, but we are off in a taxi with our luggage, looking at the massive sky tree looming in the distance, looking at I don't know. Oh, this building. I was trying to take a picture of this building. I don't know what the hell it is. And in the background, a big Ferris wheel, which is maybe another hint. Taking a look at. I don't know what the heck I was trying to take a picture of here. Oh, the Ferris wheel. I think, yeah, got blocked. But here we go. We are heading to Disneyland. We stayed 2 nights in a Tokyo Disneyland hotel, which is a really lovely experience. So let me give my little standard disclaimer, because a lot of people have been asking me, what was your favorite part of the trip this time? And I mean, in some senses, it was Nakano Broadway. But in another, I think, more significant sense, in what made this trip the most unique compared to all of my other trips to Japan, and probably what will stick with me the longest from this trip, and was just a completely wonderful experience, is Disneyland. But every time I say that, I have to give a little disclaimer that I do not like Disney as a company. I think they're a horrible, evil company, as most, multi-trillion dollar international corporations are. I think they're like spitting on and desecrating the ancient arts of cinema and animation, and really just like the most unartistic and uh, depraved and just kind of like corporate milking entertainment company that has ever existed, both now and through many incidents in the past. And although I quite like a lot of the classic Disney movies, like I think they're very well done. I'm not like a giga fan of them. There's probably not that many that I would include in like a top 100 movies list. I am in no way like a Disney adult that has oriented my life around those movies or anything. They're just, nice childhood memories. But given all that, putting all that aside, despite all of that, I think Disney World and Disneylands and just the Disney parks in general are just an absolutely amazing experience. And granted, I think they are going downhill. If you watch the latest Jenny Nicholson video, the famous 4-hour saga of the Star Wars hotel, at the end, I think it's really interesting to watch this segment, even if you don't watch the whole thing. But at the end, she talks about how all of these failures, this cost cutting, this nickel and diming of customers, this kind of scammy level of presentation and marketing, is actually kind of indicative of an overall trend within Disney parks, and that they're implementing a lot of policies and programs and stuff like paid line skipping privileges that are very, very anti-consumer and lead to other anti-consumer practices. And all of this is likely true. I haven't experienced it really firsthand. Tokyo Disneyland is actually not owned by the Disney Corporation. So they have some of this stuff going on, but I don't think it's to nearly as bad an extent as Disney World. Disney World, I actually had the wonderful privilege of attending several times throughout my childhood with my mom. I think we went 4 times together and always just had an absolutely amazing time. It's really, really sad to me that Jenny Nicholson, who of course is a huge expert on all things Disney Park, is reporting on it going downhill, and this seems to be kind of the general sentiment among big Disney Park fans. It sucks because it really was a truly, uniquely amazing, wonderful place. And I still think Tokyo Disneyland is a truly amazing, unique, wonderful place, and we just had such a wonderful time together. I'm not going to defend the parks in terms of like morals or ethics, their existence, their place within kind of like class and privilege and culture as this kind of prototypical destination for vacations and stuff. Like, there's all sorts of evil associations you can come up with it. But when you're in the parks, when you're just enjoying them, I have to give it up. It is just so well done. And we'll get into why I think it's so well done and just how amazing I really think it is. But this extends all the way to the hotels. The hotels are beautiful, enchanting places. We splurged a little bit. It's quite a bit more than a typical hotel, but the fact that you're right close to the park and they always offer shuttles for free between the hotel and the park, which just makes getting back and forth so easy. I don't know. I think it's worth it if you're already splurging on going to Disneyland in the first place. It's worth considering just going to the hotel as well, and then it just becomes this really light, nice, all-in-one experience. So we checked in, we left our luggage, and then we went to wait in line for the park to open. This might sound psychotic, waiting in line for the park to open, but we were not alone. As you'll see, there was... this is the little monorail that goes between the two major parks in Tokyo, Disneyland and DisneySEA, and then to some of the hotels as well. But yeah, you can see more and more people are filing in to line up. This was at 7:21 a.m., and we had a long wait ahead of us. We got there very, very early. And this is actually pretty typical. A, to show up as soon as the park opens, and B, for some of the most coveted luxury VIP experiences that come with staying with certain hotels and stuff, to get into the park slightly early, like 15 minutes early, okay? Just because the meta around getting on truly desirable high traffic rides it's like that important. You can see it's raining. So there's no major deterrent to the crowds. We had our ponchos on, which you could see before. Honestly, I was like kind of glad that it was rainy because I hoped that would minimize the crowds. I imagine it would have been even worse without, but the crowds were still pretty huge. And it meant that it wasn't like broilingly hot. We weren't going to get baked to death. Here we are. This is now 8:41 a.m., so an hour and 20 minutes later, we're still waiting. We can see an early group, some people that had, for whatever reason, the ability to go in early are already in there, waiting for the next tier of line segregation. Here's a big crowd. You can see a lot of people dress up in their Disney finest, bringing in all sorts of outfits and accessories. Another shot of the crowd forming behind us. So we did pretty good. We were in like the frontmost section, which was our plan. And here we are, going inside at last at 9:01 a.m. So we waited for quite a while, but as I said, that's what you do. We went to DisneySEA first. I'll be real with you. I knew DisneySEA was a place. I thought it must be down in like the Philippines, because I thought it meant Disney Southeast Asia, because it's always written in all caps. So that's what I thought, and I thought that was like just the regional one they have for, all those people that live in Southeast Asia. And then I found out it was in Tokyo, but for some reason I didn't like update my understanding of what it was called, and I still thought it was called like Disney Southeast Asia. And then only when I actually got in the park and I saw that the theming was all like water and stuff, did I realize, oh, this is DisneySEA, like land and sea. So yes, it's not a water park, like there's no, water slides and stuff, but it's a water themed park that's all around oceanic rides and lakes and river cruises and, all of those kind of Disney staples are congregated here. So appropriately, it starts with this big globe fountain thing. And then so basically, this is the Disneyland strat. I'm not going to purport to be some sort of Disneyland expert. There was a time where my mom actually was very well read on this stuff, like the strategy of how to get the most out of Disneyland, which is a very complicated field. But things have changed so much in the last 10 years that I think the meta is like totally different. One thing remains true though. If you have a ride that is like your highest priority that you definitely want to get on, the strat is just show up as early as possible and go straight for that ride, which is what we did. We looked on the map. We found out where to go to ride on You'll see. I guess I shouldn't spoil that. But it took us through this kind of Mediterranean town. So this is the thing with Disney World, right? It's this world of pure artifice meant to kind of enchant you and make you feel like you were in all these different locales, some of them fantastical, some of them lifted from the real world, but they do such an amazing job of building these sets, of building out tons of little details, of building out, realistic wear and tear on these buildings that obviously are not anywhere near that old, of flowing you through different areas, both limiting what you can see at times and then opening up huge expanses that just feel like you've stepped into a wonderland, that you've stepped through some enchanted door and seen a brand new world. It's amazing. It's like I've never before witnessed this idea of like engineering just the physical experience of walking around to such a degree of expertise and intent and kind of like aiming for just that emotional response. It's sublime. I think it's truly sublime, and I don't think I'll be able to capture it in photos. Like, you can definitely look and be like, yeah, this is really detailed, this is really neat. You can picture yourself being like this guy and looking around and being like, wow, it's like I'm in the Mediterranean. But you like really do think you're like in the Mediterranean. Like, it's just that enchanting. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have had this experience had I not gone as a kid and had that wonderment as a child, and had that like really distilled into me, and now I have all these associations and stuff. I certainly think stuff like waiting in line for rides for like an hour plus probably would hit very different had I not been doing it throughout my childhood. I would probably be like, well, that's bullshit if I had to do that for the first time as an adult. So I don't know, like, your experiences may vary, but it's just so well done. So here is one of those great moments. We're walking through this kind of underpass, which opens out into the huge lake in the middle. You can see this volcano in a distance. You can see this totally different architecture, this kind of more Arabian town on the other side of the lake. There's like a castle, like there's a pirate ship, and you're just, it's such a wonderful feeling. I don't know, man. I think you just got to experience for yourself. And if you do, and you're like, then I'm sorry. But I really want to believe that you too will be awed walking around like this. There's another shot of it. You can see this little river cruiser going around. Disneyland loves doing this, having rides that also transport you from one part of the park to the other. Huge help when you've been on your feet all day. And really just, a lovely way to see the park in, again, a very orchestrated way. So we kept making our way through the back streets of this kind of Italian villa. You can see, I loved when I actually was in Italy, seeing all these little fountains and stuff. So I don't know, it's like nostalgic in a way, even though, again, it's just all fake. It really does. Like, when I say it feels real, that sounds insane, because it's not like I think, am I in Italy? But it's like all the emotions that you really would feel start welling up in this very idealized, like platonic ideal of that place. It's just so good. In the distance, you can see the Tower of Terror Hotel. We'll be exploring that later. This is kind of like the ports of New York, recreated in another kind of themed area. You can see down here a gondola. I think it's kind of the feeling of like starting a level in like Banjo-Kazooie or Mario 64 or something, where you just see all these little places for adventure off in the distance and think, I don't even know what I want to do first. Like, all of these things are here for me to enjoy. So we kept making our way along. And just little things like there's always just this lovely kind of themed music being piped in from everywhere. Stuff like the staff are always just joyful and smiling to you and waving to you, and all these little things just add up to such an overall powerful experience. Okay, so now we're in line. And lines are the reality of Disneyland. As I said before, they've introduced over the years a number of different fast pass systems, and there's some excellent YouTube documentaries you can watch about all of these. But the long and short of it is, like, they do try to set up ways for you to skip the line. And this creates like a really weird sort of adversarial dynamic where you want to like minimize your time waiting in lines, obviously, but at other times you just kind of have to bite the bullet. And now that they're like offering paid line skips, it becomes this whole other thing where it's like they want to keep the lines long in order to encourage you to pay for those things, which is really, really gross. So there's also kind of this feeling of stubborn determination where you're like, I'm not going to pay for that. I'm not going to propagate that. I'm going to wait in line, even if it kills me. But the lines get long. And we basically zeroed in on this line because we knew it was very popular, this ride, and that it was only going to get longer throughout the day. And we waited, well, let's find out. So this is at 9:13, and then we'll check in again once we've actually made it to the ride. But waiting in line, yeah, it's just kind of part of the Disney experience. I think even if you just freely paid as much money as possible, even the like fast lines, the lines that you pay to get in, are still probably like 15-20 minutes long. So you just kind of learn to embrace it. It's like not, waiting in a parking lot or something. You get to check out the decor. You get a kind of feeling of camaraderie with the other line waiters. You get a nice feeling of progress and achievement because the line takes you through many, many different sceneries and this feeling of escalation as you get closer and closer to the ride. So here we started off in this like cave. We're lining up. This is another shot of another kind of cave entryway to another area that we'll see later. Here you can see the riverboat setting off. People just flooding in continuously. This is still 15 minutes after it opened, so kind of we're still in the throes of the initial rush. I love looking at stuff about like crowd dynamics in Disneyland, seeing where people go initially. This is a whole other aspect of like the Disneyland meta. There's like a fun fact that like 7/10 of people will turn right initially, and I remember we were talking about, do you think in Japan that's backwards? 70% of people will turn left, just because of various cultural associations of which direction is the forward direction. I don't know. It's all very, very interesting to me. It truly is a unique place in so many different ways. Okay, so this is kind of our first hint of the aesthetics of the actual ride itself as we get closer and closer. It's now 9:19. And here, as we enter in, we can finally see the sign for the ride itself. Soaring! Fantastic flight. So if you don't know about Soaring, it's the best goddamn thing that Disney has ever made. And I include like all of their movies, all of their cartoons, everything. I think Soaring is their crowning achievement. And when I explain to you what it is, you're not going to believe that hyperbole. You're going to think that's crazy. Here's the line behind us, stretching. So we started down at this cave, and you can see now what's happened is they've like doubled back from that cave even. So the line is probably like twice as long now as when we got in it. So I think we did very good by speed running Soaring and getting there ASAP. Hey, look. Here's my mom taking a picture. And here's that picture. Wow. So yeah, we love Soaring. We've gone on it many times at Disney World. We were very excited to see the Tokyo Disneyland version. Every Soaring has kind of a different theming as a way to kind of... This is another huge Disneyland thing. Every ride isn't just a ride. There's like a story behind it. You're taking place... there's like a theming, a narrative, usually some sort of twist that happens during the ride. Something goes wrong. Especially like the big kind of flagpole, tent pole, flagpole? The big tentpole rides have all of this stuff going for it. So here we're heading into like a museum that's the history of flight. Okay, and it's all about this marvelous invention that can kind of fantastically fly around the world. And of course, this is the actual vehicle for the ride. I really like this theming. I think it's just so lovely and enchanting, talking about the spirit of flight and what has been achieved and just, you know, living people's lifetimes. It really is amazing. I think it's nice to be reminded of what a miracle flight is, especially for us that have just flown halfway around the world to experience this. Overall, I like it better than the Disney World theming of Soaring, which is just that you're getting on like a jet airplane, and it has kind of the feeling of getting on an airplane in a lot like an actual airport. And I do like this aspect. Patrick Warburton is like a flight attendant, or maybe he's the pilot. I guess he's the pilot, and he has a safety video that he plays. You know, I love Patrick Warburton. But overall, I thought this theming was really cool. You know, talking about some actual pioneers in the history of flight, but mixing it in, you'll see later, with like fantastical things that purport all sorts of other ancient civilizations and stuff and their fictional capacity for flight. So you go into this like museum area. This is all the line. You can see my mom taking her poncho off now that we're finally inside. Museo del Volo Fantastico, the Museum of Fantastic Flight. This kind of gives you a little preview of how long you're going to be in line from here on. We're in the final stages of the line now, so it's very, very exciting. But yeah, just the decor is like off the charts. Like just all these little things that you get to look at. This one's blurry, but whatever. Talking about the biology of flight, ancient flying animals, and these are all real, but then again, fantastical things like dodos flying or penguins flying. You know, the famous Archatrix, Arcticryops, or whatever that thing is called. This room I absolutely loved. We were in here for a while, but it's just so delightful. As I said before, just these illustrations of fictional past flight. Here's kind of like a Don Quixote figure flying with this windmill type helicopter. Like you can see, it's so inventive. There's like so many ideas in here. It's just so lovely. This idea of hot air balloon races in India, flying on elephants, Japan, ninjas flying around, like, oh, there's just so much to it. So yeah, really lovely theming. You know, Aboriginal cultures in North America, did they have, you know, the wings of a hawk? Well, no, but it's enchanting. And just the kind of way they start weaving in fantasy with reality, I find very engrossing. Some more shots of these. Check my Discord messages quick. Some archaeological artifacts from these mythical periods of flight, like a broom that a witch may have used, and you know, this actually refers to a real conspiracy theory, which is of the helicopter hieroglyph. Which is like a hieroglyph that kind of looks like a helicopter. I think they're kind of riffing on that, because it's led to all sorts of conspiracy theories among cranks. Shard of a flying carpet, you know, this big kite showing the famous picture of Nobunga, Nobunga, whatever that guy's name is. We're getting closer and closer. I love this one too, the Viking boat that's magically flying through the sky. This too. It's so fun. It's so fun. And this isn't even the ride. This isn't even the ride. More artifacts. Just, it's so fun. And it's like some kind of real stuff in here too. Some of this stuff is real. There was a drawing in Da Vinci's notebook that looked like this, with these like screw helicopters and stuff. Like, this is close to real technology. The fan of the Tengu that lets him fly. Oh, I don't know. It's like even more fun, honestly, looking at it now, because at the time you're kind of split between looking at all this stuff and being really enamored by it, and just wanting to get on the ride because you've been waiting in line now for over an hour. But now, just looking at the photos, I can really just appreciate on its own what's going on, what's being displayed in these final moments of waiting. We're close now. They kind of reintroduce the image of the actual vehicle you're riding on in these kind of final moments to get you even more hype. And then it's later. So we went on the ride. Okay, so let me actually explain what soaring is, okay? You sit in something that kind of looks like this. It's just a little kind of gondola-looking thing. And then it lifts you up, and you go flying through the sky. No, just kidding. But it sure feels like you do, because what happens is it just moves into an area with a big domed screen, such that everywhere you look, all you see is screen. And then it plays a video, probably captured by drone or something, of just flying through all these different landscapes around the world. Okay? And then the gondola shifts and tilts and leans back and forward and kind of woo, as the video does the same motions, so you're kind of synced up there. There's a fan that blows wind at you at variable speeds, such that you really feel like you're whooshing forward when it accelerates and stuff. And then it also plays like scents. Plays is maybe the wrong word, but it blows scents at you. So you smell what you hypothetically might be smelling in those actual locations. The breeze off the sea, or fruit, or spices, or whatever. And there's a wonderful stirring orchestral soundtrack. There's some sound effects, ambient noises from what's happening, but predominantly the soundtrack. And for like 10 minutes, maybe, no more than that, I think, you fly, around the pyramids and then through beautiful kind of Caribbean islands and various metropolises and mountain ranges. Before the finale, you fly over Tokyo Disneyland itself and fly up into the fireworks. And that's it. And you might think, that doesn't really sound that great. And it's not even so much that it's like, wow, it feels so realistic. Like, that's kind of part of it. But if it truly felt realistic, it would be terrifying, because you'd truly believe that you're just dangling with a mere seatbelt 1,000 feet in the air over this stuff. And no. It's not even so much about the realism. It's something indescribable. Just in the enchantment that it builds up, that I was like crying by the end. It's so moving. It's so beautiful. I feel like I might tear up just like really trying to relive it and describe it, but I don't think I can describe it. I honestly think this is like the best thing Disney has ever produced. It's just wonderful. It's just truly, truly wonderful and enchanting and brilliant. And I said to my mom later, I don't get why they don't just have these all over, because it's not a super complicated thing, right? Like, yeah, okay, sorry, it is complicated, but it's just one building. It's just like a large theater, okay? That's all you need, a big theater and a place to line up and get off and stuff. They could just have standalone Sorens in like every major city of the world. And my mom was like, I don't know, I think that might ruin some of the magic of it, some of the specialness of it. And I kind of agree with her, because it is just this feeling of, you wait in line, you woke up so early, you oriented your whole Disneyland strategy around going on it because you're such a big fan, or at least, that's what we did. And then it's like you almost think there's no way it's gonna live up to that. And then it's just, it does, like 1,000 times over it does. So I don't know. I don't know what the experience would be if I'm like, I feel like doing Soarin' today, and then I just ride the subway and I go down to Toronto Soarin', and maybe I wait in line for like 10 minutes. It might be a little different. I don't know. But I really wish everybody could experience it at least once, you know? It really is just so magical. Ugh. I don't know. I just can't put it all together, but it's so moving. Yeah, that's Soren. Check it out. Okay, next, we decided to take the riverboat cruise, which kind of sails around the lake. Again, even in these rides that are just as much functional as they are, you know, an entertainment ride, they really put a lot of effort into the decor and the set dressing and stuff to look at, even though there's probably never going to be much of a line for this. Here we go. You can see another transportation ride here, this train that runs up and down. From the boat, we can see this kind of castle area and the volcano behind it. Another shot from the boat. Again, just like, I don't know, just their skill in building up this like faux natural terrain, I think is so cool. Because the goal isn't just pure realism, right? It's like fantasy. It's like an idealized form of what this sort of rocky crag would look like. It's so good. This I thought was an interesting word to use. Lovecraft, of course, the association is like H.P. Lovecraft, and these sort of like seaside towns prominently feature in Lovecraft works. So I thought that was strange. This is another interesting thing, is Duffy, the Disneyland bear. They decided having all the mascots from all our movies and all of our beloved cartoons and stuff isn't enough. We need to sell more merch. So they came up with Duffy, which is this honestly very generic looking stuffed bear, and said this is the mascot of the Disney parks. And you gotta get a bear, and then in all these different places and all these different parks, you can get like exclusive outfits for the bear. And I remember when they introduced this, we were at Disney World one time when I was younger, and both of us, well, my mom especially, was very skeptical of Duffy and thought, geez, this is a cash grab. And I think I was a little more sympathetic to Duffy just because, you know, I was like, well, he's kind of cute. But it is like a blatant cash grab, and both of us were kind of skeptical that it would catch on. But let me tell you, Duffy is going over huge in Japan. They love Duffy over here. But yeah, more shots of these boats as we kind of sail to the other harbor. Very different area. Yeah, this was another one. I couldn't remember when I saw this, but I was looking for it. There's another fake little storefront decor thing here called DB Cooperage. Now, DB Cooper, isn't that the guy that jumped out of an airplane with a ton of money and was never seen again? That's just sort of this like weird crime folk hero guy. Am I getting mixed up? I think that's DB Cooper. Yeah. What? What does this mean? But yeah, this is one of the other fun things, is when they make these kind of like fake towns and stuff, they have, obviously, to add to the illusion and the fun of it, they have all these fake storefronts and stuff. And what's cool is that they're like functional too. Like, this is where the crew can go for breaks. This is where they can store stuff. This is where they can prep stuff for other areas. So it's really neat to me to think about both kind of like the illusionary world of Disneyland and then the functional world that supports the illusionary world in a way that is like non-interfering, that doesn't break the illusion. Just all of this stuff that kind of happens behind the scenes, hidden in plain sight. It's really neat. Here again is the Arabian town. We can see from a distance. I don't know if we ended up going there because I don't think there was any rides we were interested in there, and it's kind of like a whole section to itself. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But here we are in more of kind of like a tropical river adventure zone. This is like on the other side now of the big volcano. It's kind of hard to picture where everything is relative to one another, which is actually, I think, quite deliberate, such that when you're in an area, you really feel like you're just in that area and you're not just constantly being reminded of the real size and the artifice. Instead, you just kind of get wrapped up in this fantasy of, ooh, I'm in the jungle now. But yeah, you can see this is the Arabian town is over here, and the jungle stuff is over here. We decided to go for some lunch. Very, not super early lunch, around 11. There was this Yucatan Base Camp Grill. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the food in Disneyland. It's expensive. There's no getting around that, and everybody knows that. And it used to be that before they introduced all of this paid fast pass stuff, it's like you paid your money for the ticket. That's expensive to begin with. But then after that, you can actually do Disneyland quite cheaply, because you used to be able to bring in your own food. I don't know if you still can, but you used to be able to. And then nothing else really costs money. You could buy some merch, which is, obviously also expensive. But you kind of could avoid all of these costs. And I think that was fun because it made it feel even more kind of like luxurious and exciting and indulgent if you did buy food within the park and experience all of that like theming and stuff. And they used to offer like a meal plan, which me and my mom got a few times when we went when I was younger, where you pay like a flat fee for your entire trip, and that entitles you to every day you get one counter service place where you just walk up and get your food and go sit down. One snack, which could be like a cart that sells like popcorn or a hot dog or whatever. And then one true sit-down dinner where you're served a full meal at a table. And I think even then you got like an appetizer, a main, and a dessert. So it was actually a really great deal. And I thought that was an amazing program. And of course it's gone. Otherwise we may have tried to do it for a couple days here. But we still indulged and ate within the park because it is kind of the fun experience. And like I said, it makes it really exciting. To be like, all right, let's check out this restaurant. So again, even the restaurants have all this theming, and the idea here is it's an archaeological dig that's happening, as we're eating, and this is the mess hall where the workers and stuff, go to have a meal. So I think the food in Disneyland is good. It's not, amazing, and it's definitely kind of down the middle so that a lot of people can enjoy it. But they put effort into it, and they make it fun and exciting and themed, that you're always kind of eating stuff that kind of makes sense for the area of park you're in, for the illusion of it. There's a great variety of different cuisines. Of course, very middle of the road versions of those cuisines, but you can really experiment quite a bit. And I've had some really delicious stuff at these trips over the years. Like, sometimes they really knock it out of the park with one of the recipes. So this is the meal we got at this Camp Grill. This was my mom's, this is mine. Mine came with a little dessert, which I thought was very cute. Of course, in true Japanese tradition, they got the plastic food. I don't see this at Disney World, but that was a fun touch. And it's just kind of neat, too, because, like, here they're doing middle of the road for a Japanese person, which, of course, is very different than middle of the road for an American. So that was a neat variation to see as well. Here we go. This is the special set I got. And then we decided to head to the Indiana Jones ride, which was right next door. That was another very popular in-demand ride. So we thought, let's take the plunge, knock another big one off the list. It has you going into this Aztec temple. Again, they just have this excellent sense of escalation that at first it's sort of generic old stone structures, but then as you head deeper in, it's like these ruins that are just so detailed and rich with stuff to look at, and this creepy feeling of unearthing something ancient that hasn't been touched in millennia. Cobwebs and blurry photos and these ancient statues and skeletons draped over them. And I don't know, you could make an argument maybe that this is a little offensive and stereotypical and reductive, but it sure is enchanting, and it sure is does capture a lot of the adventure of old Indiana Jones movies. This one was themed around a crystal skull, which, of course, not the latest anymore. Geez, the second latest Indiana Jones movie took place in South America and dealt with these crystal skulls. And my mom and I were both like, "Yeah, I think we saw that movie around when it came out." Neither of us could remember like any damn thing that happens in it. So we were trying to kind of like piece together our memories to try to figure out what might happen on the ride. But you get a few clues in these old murals and stuff. Here's a big skull shooting flames. Getting deeper and deeper into it. Dark, scary, spooky skulls. This was neat too, just stuff that kind of lights up and vibrates, and as if there's the real fire being sparked up inside of it. Getting close now, I think. And then, of course, the hallmarks and signs that other adventurers and explorers have been in there. The theming for this ride is that you are part of this expedition to discover the mysteries of the temple. You got put on a rickety old cart. Here you can see, all this stuff. You can kind of puzzle out maybe some elements that might happen on the ride from these descriptions. Just this really lovely sense of anticipation and getting a little spooky, a little scary. All this work left half done. So much neat stuff in the set dressing. It's so good. And it's like we take all these pictures, but like everywhere you look is like this, Like there's so much stuff that we didn't photograph because had we turned 180 from here, there would be another work table with its own little diagrams and doodles and stuff to look at. This is the safety video. I love these things. I love how thematic they keep it, that it really feels like a period piece, old, dusty piece of film. So you can see here, it's like you're in a car, driving around these ancient ruins, and it's bumpy, spooky, scary. You think it's just going to be a lighthearted tour, but then the crystal skull emerges and starts messing with you. You can see people getting on it. So this is what they call a dark ride, in that you're kind of in a big room, but the lights are kept such that you can only see your immediate vicinities, and they can make it seem a lot bigger and crazier and more varied than it really is. They use a lot of tricks of kind of shaking and tilting the car, so you feel like, whoa, I'm like flying downhill, we're going around a big bend. It's all very exaggerated to kind of get more out of the space. Really, really well done stuff. And it's like, the tricks. I'm telling you what the tricks are. But I'll tell you, when you're riding on it, it really feels like it. Your brain gets fully convinced. And then, of course, all sorts of crazy stuff happens with this big crystal skull shooting effects and all these neat tricks with projectors and stuff. And really great ride. I really enjoyed it. Also had nothing at all to do with the plot of the movie. The plot of the movie is like aliens have shown up, and it's alien skulls that have these like magical powers, and it's about like reviving the aliens or something. No, here it's just a human skull, and there doesn't seem to be any plot besides it hates you and it's like attacking you. There's another Disneyland tradition that it takes a photo at a critical point when everybody's screaming and stuff. Here you can see me. I got a big grin on. My mom, you can't really see her face. So you can scan the QR code, and then it gives you an option to buy like a nice framed version of it. We have a few of them from when I was a kid, but since the advent of smartphones, it's so easy to just take the picture and not have to pay for it, which is why they put these various effects and stuff to make it like less appealing to do that. But it's nice that you get to see it at all, you know? This seems like something that they probably, in the future, will try to nickel and dime you even harder. Hey, you taking out your phone? That's $5. That's 500 yen. Okay. Then we were off to... I don't actually remember what we did next, so I guess we'll find out together. This is, again, this kind of in the jungle, frontier town. Some birds of paradise. Very beautiful flowers. Very tropical. So next we walked through this Little Mermaid area, which mostly had like kiddie rides in it. We didn't explore this place in depth, but sure looked neat. You know, just like the big castles in the Little Mermaid. Kind of has this almost grotesque feeling seeing it IRL, but I think they captured it very cool with all these kind of coral fixtures and anemones and stuff. Very colorful. Here's somebody pointing. We had an ongoing argument about whether or not it's rude to point, because I'd always be going, we need to go over there. And my mom would go, don't point, don't point. Who cares? So I'm like, people point here. People point everywhere. Look, it's pointing. I won't let it go. I don't think it's rude to point. It's rude to point at people. I agree with that. Pointing like this, if that's your experience of somebody pointing at you like this, that's rude. But if I said, yeah, the garbage is over there, that's not rude. The garbage doesn't care. Anyways. So yeah, we were making our way through the Little Mermaid area, through these caverns. Here's the cloudy sky above. At this point, it had stopped raining, but, you know, all day it was just on and off. So this is a pretty cool area. It's like another lake sort of within the volcano. Here you can see this strange tunneling device. Ooh, we'll learn more about that later. Here's the lake itself. Blurry picture. Here's a better picture. Thanks, Mom. And I think what we did next, yeah, so you can go down this spiral area, long kind of winding downward spiral, and ride a quote-unquote submarine ride. So it makes you think you're getting on a submarine because you're going down kind of below the water, or at least it seems like you are. And then, you know, there's these submersible looking things. It kind of reminded me of the game Iron Lung, just this creepy, old iron welded and bolted together thing. So this is actually a ride that used to be at Disney World as well, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Rides like come and go at Disney parks all the time. And it's kind of neat to see some of them that persisted in Japan after we were able to see them at Disney World. I don't know if I ever went on this, but my mom could remember going on it when she was younger. I don't know if I don't have a better shot of the actual submarine. It also has a nice trick because it shows you what the submarine actually looks like, and you see that it's waiting in the water. So all of this is just kind of build up the idea in your mind that you're actually going underneath the water. But of course you're not, because that would be hella dangerous. So what it is, I wish I had taken a better picture. You're in this little ship, and you're taken through a bunch of dioramas and stuff, and you're kind of being floated above them, and you're kind of looking down. And it's totally dark, but your sub has like spotlights, so stuff just kind of gets illuminated in isolation. And then this is the really cool part of the trick. This glass window is like 2 panes of glass, and in between they have actual water with like bubbles going up it and stuff. And this works really well. Like, again, you don't actually think you're underwater, but just kind of all these efforts and all these tricks together, it really feels like you're underwater. I was really impressed. And the ride itself was cool. You get to look at a lot of neat stuff. And then, of course, like I said, there's kind of a narrative with a twist. Shoot, the submarine's running out of power. Big warning lights are going off. But then this ancient species of mer people come and help you out and push you out of danger. And I don't know, it's nice. It's nice. Of course, you know, the narrative factor is maybe lessened if you can't speak Japanese. I was doing my best to kind of listen and comprehend and translate for my mom. And it went okay. Usually we were able to kind of understand the gist of what was going on. But yeah, fun one. And I just kind of love this, like, this aesthetic of early pioneering into diving and just this kind of wrought iron era. It's almost sort of like steampunky, though, in that there's very futuristic elements as well, things that would have been contemporarily futuristic. Anyways, now for something completely different. We walked through this like old kind of Spanish-style castle. There was like, there was an activity here that was like Leonardo themed, where you had to solve puzzles based on his like notebooks and inventions and stuff. And it was kind of like, I think we were gonna get trounced by not knowing Japanese, so we didn't do it. This is one of the kind of more fancy restaurants in this park, Magellan's. It's meant to replicate, this dining hall of the royalty in the age of exploration. Too expensive, but neat to see. Here's another shot out at the lake. You can see the pirate ship. And then we saw this big steamship in the distance. It's like a real ship, basically. I mean, it's like a set, but it's to the scale and size of a real old steamship like this. So that's very cool to see. There's some restaurants and stuff on there. We'll check it out later. We saw these gondolas going around. We thought that was pretty neat, so we made our way over to where those board. We got on. So again, this is like a transport type ride that you, I think, get off somewhere else than you got on. I actually can't remember now. Maybe you just do a lap. And you get to see, again, another perspective of all these sets. It's very beautiful, very, enchanting and whimsical, this little voyage you're on. And then this is another common theme of a lot of Disney rides, is that you get kind of like an MC that comes with you. They're like a tour guide, but they'll also banter, make jokes, do some crowd work, asking people where they're from, asking for some participation. Here there was stuff about, when you go under the bridge, you got to close your eyes and make a wish, and let's wave to those people up there. Let me tell you, you do a lot of waving at Disneyland. You're very much encouraged to, when you see people going past on a ride, to wave at them and they wave back. And it's really lovely. I don't know why. I don't know what makes it so enchanting just to live in this kind of magical world where everybody is friends with everybody and everybody's waving to everybody. But it really does have effect on your mood. It really brightens you up to be waved to and to wave back and to have that moment of connection with groups of strangers. So here we are going around on our little gondola. We can see the riverboat also making its rounds. Just this feeling of activity and excitement out on the lake. Here's a great shot of the volcano and the pirate ship and stuff. Mom was telling me that in Italy she had been on the bridge that inspired this, which is like this big, long, wide bridge that actually has buildings and stores and stuff. Yeah, it's neat. This is something else that Disney does very well, is these kind of real-world homages, that it's not just sort of a generic amalgamation of this sort of setting and these sorts of ideas, but sometimes they'll call out something very specific, a specific landmark, and then you get like a little in miniature experience of it, or it can, like as it did for my mom, give you flashbacks and memories of being at the actual place. It's so lovely. Here it started really raining hard, so we took refuge in a little cafe. I had an iced latte, which kept me nice and wired because we'd been up since 5 a.m. and we still had a lot of park to explore. It was actually really nice coffee. I was actually very surprised. Not that I'm like a super big coffee snob or anything, but I know what I like, and I really like this. This was a themed fountain outside of a Scrooge McDuck themed store. This is one thing that maybe is a little disappointing to me about Disney. They do a really nice job theming the different stores and coming up with kind of like real stores that might exist in all their different franchises and stuff. Like, yeah, Scrooge McDuck probably would have like a luxury department store. But then in like 90% of these stores, it's kind of just like the same merch over and over. Or maybe slightly different in that it's like, oh, well, this is the store that's near, I don't know, the Big Robot 5. What's that movie called? Big Robot Movie. So here's a bunch of merch of Baymax because it's next to that. But it's the same kind of merch every time. And everything is just merch. Like, you can't, buy a suit at McDuck's. Even though that's what the quote-unquote real McDucks would be selling. I do think it would be kind of ridiculous to sell suits in Disneyland. I don't think anybody would buy them. But it would add to the realism, right? It would add to the theming of if this luxury department store actually sold, like, luxury clothing or whatever. It's a little illusion breaking that you go in here and it's just, like, plushies of... What is that? What is that? It's just like a turtle. But yeah, it's usually pretty generic. Yeah, so here is one of said shop. It has lovely decor, lovely theming. It really does feel like an old world luxury department store. But it's just like, oh, here's a bunch of headbands. What do I expect? But yeah, it's still nice to check out the stores because they do have all this cool theming and stuff. But it's like the same stuff pretty much every time. You can see here, it is pouring. But it's kind of this like amalgamation of like different American cities that have famous ports and different kind of port cultures. All sort of blended together street by street. It's like you're in a different city. So this is sort of New York with like Broadway and stuff. But other parts are kind of like, there's like a San Francisco sort of zone. We didn't end up riding this because there was always a huge line, and we had ridden something similar before in Disney World. It's like a Toy Story ride where you're on a cart and you have like a gun, and it's like a carnival sort of thing where you're like shooting all these things that are like popping up. But it's all like virtual. It's just scoring on if you aimed correctly. It's fun, and it's neat because there's high scores. I love a good high score. But we figured it wasn't worth waiting in line for. I just really like this terrifying giant Woody that you walk into his mouth, though. And then we decided to go for the Tower of Terror. One of the truly iconic Disney park rides. I'm sure most people have heard of it. I'm sure most people know the conceit of it. You're on an elevator. It's going up. Ooh, it's going up. Oh, what's gonna happen? Shoo! It just drops down, and it is quite the thrill. Now, I know, any amusement park worth its salt will have some similar ride where you're strapped into something and it goes way up and then drops. And I'm sure the Tower of Terror is not even notable in terms of, like, drop speed or height or whatever, but it's the theming. It really is the theming. Makes it feel so special and so thrilling, because... one of those other generic, you're just on a big pole rides, that does nothing for me. I don't think I would ever ride on one of those. But the Tower of Terror, I would line up for all day. And so we did. We got into another big line. The theming here is that it's kind of an old Art Deco era building owned by this eccentric kind of adventurer, businessman, mogul type. Who has decked out his garden and all these kind of ancient relics from around the world. Here's kind of this Greco-Egyptian Sphinx thing. Sort of an Aztec-looking statue. This is medieval kind of looking. She's got a pet dragon or something. The gardens are nice too. You get to see a lot of neat plants. If you're a fan of plants and gardening and stuff, the Disney parks have a lot to offer. There's like a whole other layer of just how the greenery of the park is maintained and designed and deliberated on. And it's kind of neat because it's like, the theming is that this is the gardens of this old eccentric mogul. But really, this is the gardens of an old eccentric mogul. Like, it's like 1-to-1. It's the same plants. It's the same type of planters. It's the same type of layout. I like this sketch in progress, painting some debutante in this garden. You can see the tower looming above you. It's funny that this is in English. I think that kind of speaks to whether they're concerned about the Japanese crowd or the tourists causing a problem. But I like that they've themed even the do not touch things. Broken statue, Ozymandias core. Another broken one. I like that it's holding its own head. There's the tower again, looming ever closer. Another kind of, it's a Hindu-y type one. Again, just... I think the other thing, too, that because you're within the park and you've, like, already paid, there's no, like, additional kind of, like, branding or explanations needed. Like, there's no additional context required. Everything can just kind of be purely within the artifice. It can be purely within the setting. I don't know why that's so appealing to me, but it is. Like, there doesn't need to be a real explanation of this garden. There doesn't need to be, if this is real, it may have like a dedication, which is, touching and nice. And it's not like I'm against people dedicating things like sections of parks or benches or whatever. But it's neat that everything you see is just within this fictional world. Nice old lamp. Some hibiscuses. Big peacock. I really like this peacock. This is another pic of that. Then you go inside. You're in the lobby. I really like this. There's all these murals of... the owner of this building and his many adventures across the world, retrieving artifacts and stuff. But in all of them, he's like running away and or doing something really shitty. Like here, he's clearly stolen this, and now they're going to try to kill their pursuers by chopping down the bridge. And I don't know, it's kind of nice that like, it's like evil. Like this is the villain that you're in the tower of, but you're kind of like brought along, like you're complicit sort of. That's kind of your, enjoying his luxuries and are about to be set with the curse that's set upon him. The world is mine oyster, which I with sword will open. A nice Shakespeare quote. Origin of the famous phrase, the world is your oyster. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like nice theming to me. I think it's very fun that it's just the building of this old dickhead. And that even in his own vainglorious depictions of himself comes across as like a coward and a murderer and a thief. Here you can see the various mailboxes of people staying in the tower. I guess it's a hotel. I don't know. I wasn't clear on that, if it was like an apartment building or a hotel or what. This is, oh, yeah. Hotel Hightower. Okay, never mind. That's obvious. Guest list. There may be like Easter eggs in here too. I'm kind of too lazy to read through it right now, but it gives you such a sense of time and place. It's from 1899. Just this old furniture, immaculately maintained as unmaintained. So good. Here's another one fleeing from some Aztec temple, looking dignified and heroic, stealing this thing, but clearly they're at a disadvantage. And then we're brought into... So it's like, the conceit is that we're going on a tour of this museum to see the relics and the adventures of this guy. They've set up these exhibits of his stuff in memorial. But then, of course, this cursed idol that he brought back on such an expedition, the curse is real. And then, some spooky stuff happens, and we get led into these really spooky areas with all this Aztec stuff, because I guess it's like an Aztec idol. And then, we get on the elevator. What's gonna happen? It's so much fun. Again, it's like the thrill of just being dropped is one thing. Of course, that's thrilling. You experience the floatiness and the zero G, and your brain is screaming at you that you're about to die because you're just in total free fall from a height. They do a really nice trick where at the very peak, the doors open and you can see out into the park and you realize just how high up you are before it drops you. And then it will repeatedly lift you and drop you, and you stop at different spots, and sometimes you rocket up really fast, which is another crazy sensation. It's just so well done. At the one in Disney World, we've actually ridden on that one quite a few times. There was one day in particular where, with the old Fast Pass system, basically you get like a ticket. You go to the ride physically, you get a Fast Pass ticket from the booth. It tells you come back at this other time and you'll be let in immediately. So you're basically waiting in line, but like remotely. Very clever system. We just got into a rhythm where we got the Fast Pass for Tower of Terror. Then we went on the Rock and Roll roller coaster. Got a Fast Pass for the Rock and Roll roller coaster. Oh, it's right time to go on our Fast Pass at Tower of Terror. Go ride Tower of Terror. Get another Fast Pass when we get off. Oh, it's time for the Rock and Roll roller coaster. We went back and forth like 5 times each. It was so much fun. And what we learned is the Tower of Terror is actually like different every time. The sequence of drops and lifts is, I don't know if it's like random or if there was like a set number of routines that you could get one at random or whatever. But it's always surprising. Even if you're a veteran of the ride, you'll never know exactly when it's going to drop you, which I think is so much fun. So yeah, it's a blast. It's a hoot. It's neat to see the same ride basically, but with different theming. In Disney World, it's all themed around the Twilight Zone. And it's just this hotel that mysteriously has this like phantom cursed elevator. And there's a video where Rod Stewart explains it. And it has this real like reality bending, you go through these projections that make you feel like you're going through into the world of the Twilight Zone, which is pretty sweet. This one was neat too, with these kind of like horror feelings, and like I said, this whole bizarre conceit where you're kind of complacent and you're getting cursed as well. But yeah, we had a fun time. You can see we got big goofy grins on our faces as the elevator plummets. Oh yeah, and they have, as I said, these effects are kind of to encourage you to buy it because you can't really get a clean shot. We didn't buy it, but we had a fun time. This is the gift shop afterwards. Again, it would be neat if they sold like, I don't know, like, do they sell real things at a hotel gift shop? I don't know, maybe like smoking jackets or something that feels really of that era, the decadent 20s, but it's just headbands. But yeah, really neat theming. Here's, what's this guy from? Lady and the Tramp, maybe? So this is another major feature of Disney parks. They got people in costumes roaming about that you can take pictures with, just kind of brighten your day. They'll wave, they'll give you a hug, whatever. This is another thing that is getting very commercialized, though. And I think it's kind of reasonable in that this way it's a lot more, like, organized, and you're not going to, like, miss out on seeing your favorite character. So now, instead of just having them roam around, typically they'll have meet and greet spots, and there'll be a schedule. Mickey and Minnie are going to show up here at 3 p.m., so line the fuck up. And I think it's paid, too, that you got to pay, it's probably like $20 to get your picture taken with a professional photographer of Mickey and Minnie, and you can't just kind of go for a ad hoc paparazzi style run in and hug and take some pics and run out. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of nice in that you can guarantee you'll get a picture with your favorite characters. But it ruins, I think, the feeling of excitement and scarcity and novelty and rarity when you just happen to see your favorite character wandering around. So they do, though, still have to get the characters physically to and from these meet and greet photo op spots. So you will sometimes see them coming and going, which is, how we saw this guy right here, Donald MF and Duck, star of Kingdom Hearts. I've been playing Kingdom Hearts with my boyfriend, so it's extra exciting to see Donald, my loyal mage. So yeah, it's like, they're not gonna be unfriendly, but they're not gonna do like photo ops and stuff with you. You gotta line up and pay for that. And there's my guy, Scrooge McDuck. I'm a huge fan of the Carl Barks, Donald Duck and Associated Comics. There's a wonderful story to Carl Barks' life, wonderful and tragic. But he really made some of the most amazing Western comics, I think, in the world. Some of the most genre-defining comics. Something that was a huge inspiration on Tezuka and, by way of Tezuka, all of manga. And they just still hold up as such wonderful, vibrant, fun and exciting adventure stories. And he was the creator of Scrooge McDuck. He introduced a lot of the extended Duck canon to Disney. Most notably Scrooge, who is just such a wonderful character. So Scrooge, in many ways, might be my favorite Disney character off the strength of those comics. So I was very excited to see him. You can see all the characters really are in character. Scrooge walks around with a kind of stately appearance, whereas Donald is a lot kind of more goofy with it. Not Goofy the dog, but you know what I mean. He's more just strutting around. Jolly, I guess you'd say. Whereas Scrooge projects a kingliness. I don't know. It's such good fun. Then we decided to check out the steamship. We were getting pretty tired at this point. Thought, oh, this is a good time for a more substantial break, so let's go get some sort of meal here. We saw on the map there was like a lounge area, so we thought we'd check that out. So you get this like app that shows you a map of the park, and you can do all sorts of stuff in there. That's where you buy your fast passes and stuff, and gives you a running schedule of like character appearances and stuff. It's actually pretty neat. I was kind of dreading having to use the app because I thought it might be terrible, as many official apps and many Japanese apps are. But it was actually quite good, and the most critical feature is that it tells you the wait time for things, although it's sometimes wrong. So it said the wait time to get a table at this lounge was like 5 minutes. It wasn't, but we still decided to go for it. Getting on the ship here, here's shots of the interior of the ship. Like I said, it's like a real ship. Like, I took a picture of the cocktail I ordered. Don't worry about the price. But yeah, the lounge area was really nice. I think it was all themed around Roosevelt for some reason. This is like his lounge on the ship. So a little Americana. You can see the taxidermied animals he hunted. Here's a bar area. And again, a bear. All these photos from Roosevelt's life. They're probably like real, prints of real photos, which is neat. Here's our cocktails. I think Mom got a Bellini. I got the one that I took a picture of. Here I am with my cocktail. It was very tasty. Again, I think they do a good job. And something like a cocktail, like, it's nice that they put work into making an original cocktail that feels very themed. So then we got this little platter that had sandwiches, chicken and waffles, some maple syrup, some pickled cabbage. It was nice. Nice little snack, Is it worth the money? I mean, No. If, I got this at another restaurant outside of Disneyland, I'd be like, why is this so expensive? But it was tasty. So here we are back out, looking around. What do we do next? Can't remember. Here you can see the Tower of Terror Hotel in the distance. The train going around. I think maybe we take the train next. Yeah, here we are getting on the train. You can see this Americana area. The Mile High Sandwich. It's like fun. But again, it's like they can't take the final step and make it totally real, right? Most of these, just by logistics, have to be, fake storefronts. Some of them aren't. I think this tavern is a real tavern where you can go get a drink and some pub food and stuff, which is great. But, some of these, can you really get a Mile High Sandwich here? I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, I just love these old advertisements and stuff. It really takes you back. Talking to my boyfriend about Sakamoto days. Real manga heads. What's up? Check that one out. I love all this stuff around the advent of electricity. And having an electric show, back when that in itself was such a huge novelty, the light bulb. Been reading off and on Thomas Pynchon's Against the Day, which is set in this era and very much themed around these new technological advances and stuff. Here we are. The Puritan electric vehicle. The electric truck is cheaper than gasoline. What a tragic event captured in here. The death of the electric car. For a while, they did know this to be true. And then they forgot. Kind of interesting. Just these little slices of American history. Here we are waving to the train that goes past. Lots of stuff to see. So now we're going up over the bridge again. The train runs alongside it. I thought these were interesting plants. I think I got a better picture of them. Yeah. What are these? They look crazy. Okay. Now we're walking back through the cave on our way to our next ride, The Journey to the Center of the Earth. So this is a classic science fiction movie. I don't know if Disney actually made it or produced it at the time, but they ended up with the rights to it and made this ride of it. The theming is, again, all about adventure and discovery and stuff. You're part of a dig team that's heading down into the fantastical realms within the Earth. The idea is that the Earth isn't all magma and stuff inside. Oh, there's a whole world within of ancient creatures and enchanted mushroom forests and sciences that the surface world could never believe. I love it. Lots and lots of fun. Real spirit of adventure. And again, just so much to look at, While you're waiting in line, you just peer inside this exploration frontier lab and all the work that's being done. So much detail everywhere. Just look at all this stuff. You barely have time to look at it while you're in line. You almost wish the line was moving slower so you could explore all these things. The crystal caverns. More wonderful old looking illustrations of these wondrous places. Some sort of apparatus. Designs for bizarre flying machines. You get the sense that it's real eccentrics that have made their way down here. So cool. Here, of course, this is a traditional Disneyland thing where they show off the vehicle that you're going to be riding on. In this case, this drilling machine that we saw embedded into the volcano. It just kind of gives you, again, your role within the story. It makes it all a little more quote-unquote real. Of course, the vehicle doesn't really look like this, but it gives you a sense of how it's supposed to feel. Then you finally take this elevator down, which tells you you're going way, way, way down, millions of miles into the center of the Earth. But, of course, you're not really. And then finally you get on the devices themselves. Here we see them leaving. So this is a little more roller coastery than like the Indiana Jones ride. You actually do move vertically quite a bit. There's a spot where you actually pop up out of the volcano. We'd seen that before. This is another cool Disneyland thing. You often see little glimpses and previews of the ride that you're going to be going on to hype you up. So yeah, a very fun roller coaster. Again, I'm not like a roller coaster super fan. I'm not, lining up at Canada's Wonderland to go on the Leviathan, I think it's called, where it's all about the thrill of insane speed, insane drops, flippity floopity, upside down. That doesn't appeal to me too much. In Disneyland and all the Disney parks, the coasters never get like all that crazy. But they do have excellent theming, and the theming really enhances it. You feel like you're going faster than you are. You're so caught up in looking around that it feels more urgent and fleeting and intense than if you are just kind of looking outside at the rest of the park. They do a lot, I think, both to just make it this wonderful holistic experience where you're really on this adventure. But then also, as I said, it makes it more thrilling. It makes it really compelling, this illusion of you're flying through a mountain, and it's perilous and crazy. Here we are back outside. This is another themed gift shop area. Nautilus gifts. I don't know why I thought there was a C in there. This is a cool old diver suit they had on display. I don't think there was ever diver suits that really looked like this exactly. But again, just building up this sort of steampunky theming. This is a cool shirt design, don't get me wrong. I actually love this shirt design. But again, it's so generic. Here's a shot of another area. This one is all kind of like themed around, it's like a research lab for sea stuff, sea biology. There was a Finding Nemo themed ride here that we didn't go on because it seemed pretty kitty. And we were also getting pretty wiped out. At this point, we'd been up for 12 hours, and the vast majority of that was spent roaming around the parks and waiting in line and doing other strenuous stuff. So we decided to head back to the hotel. Here we see the globe again, now leaving with the island nation of Japan. That's where we are. And this is the kind of transit area. This connects to that monorail that we were looking at before, which in turn has a stop that connects to the greater Tokyo Metropolitan Transit. So it's actually very easy to get here solely with subways and stuff. We just took a taxi because we're lazy, and it saved a ton of time, and we didn't have to haul our bags all over the place before we went to the theme park. So I thought that was very, very worth it. But you don't need to. You can get around with transit just like anywhere else in Japan. This was our bus that took us directly back to our hotel. As I said, there's this whole shuttle system, which is very nice. So we actually checked into the wrong building of our hotel. There's two different buildings. Wish, which is kind of like fantasy fairy tale princessy kind of vibes, and then Discover, which is, exploration, fording rivers, that kind of excitement and fun. So this is the one that we were actually staying in. Then we went to a variety store, convenience store that was right in the hotel, which is very cool. It was just a Lawson, but it was kind of dressed up to look like DisneySEA. I like that they have these little bottles of Kewpie mayonnaise and soy sauce. I hadn't seen this before. Here's our room. It was very nice. Here's the view from our room. We kind of picked a good time to get back because, as I said, it had been raining off and on. It rained kind of strong at some points, but the later it got into the night, it started really getting like blowy and windy. And I think that would have made it a little unpleasant. But yeah, we could see the ocean. That was very exciting. You can see at the end of this video, maybe I took a picture as well, but this mass of lights is like Tokyo proper. So we kind of came around the bend here. Another shot of our room. It realistically sleeps like 4 plus. Because both of these are like substantial couch beds. So when you think about it like that, it's really not a bad deal at all. And murals and stuff. There's Stitch. We're big Stitch fans. That was exciting to see. Another shot of the mural. Chip and Dale. The Pirates of the Caribbean. Log Flume ride. Splash Mountain. The Indiana Jones ride. Oh yeah, there's a shot, of course, in the Indiana Jones ride where the boulder comes at you. And you like swerve underneath the boulder, which is very exciting. Oh, we were watching TV in the hotel, winding down. They had this like crane game challenge show on this variety thing. I recorded it because a friend of mine actually really is a crane game wizard. She lived in Japan for about 10 years, and now she's phenomenal at them. And I was like, you would do a lot better than this. Here's a shot. This is just kind of in the hotel lobby of Stitch in the Enchanted Tiki room, which we will see in a little bit. All right. That was the end of DisneySEA. You can see it's now the next day, the day in which we conquered Disneyland, which was even more substantial than DisneySEA. It was a longer day with more to see. But I'm actually just going to keep plunging ahead. I think, you know, typically I've been doing one of these per day. Oh, I should tell, wait one sec. Okay, let's just plunge ahead. Or no, maybe, okay, just kidding. This is the very anticlimactic end to this video, and then I'm just gonna record the next video, because, I don't know, I'm in the mood, and I don't have anything else I need to do. Alright, next time, Disneyland.